and I'm going to bow. I'm really glad you're here. Here we are, Unit 3, and I've really appreciated the discussions in the first two units. They seem to me both personal and sharp in terms of the questions and the background that you're bringing to the class. Seems very rich. I've loved hearing your questions and your suggestions about various topics that transpersonal psychology might explore. And many of those we'll explore this semester already. They're already on the schedule. and there are so many other topics that we won't get to this semester. I hope you'll bring some of these into your application paper at the end of the course. And just to recognize that it is such a broad field with so many different applications. Some we haven't even begun to name yet. As a field, we haven't begun to name them. So I hope you'll continue to bring in the applications and extensions of transpersonal psychology. At least maybe we can point in some of the directions, and that transpersonal psychology is growing and might continue to grow. This week, we're going to continue to dig deeper into the context of transpersonal psychology. This means looking at some of its core concepts. I really think that almost all transpersonal psychologists would agree that the main key concept is non-duality or some version of that. Non-duality, ego transcendence, self-transcendence, different terms that get used, but I think they all point to the same underlying notion that there's more to being a human being than the separateness of the ego identity. Now, in the lecture, I'm going to try to unpack many of these concepts, non-duality, self-transcendence, ego transcendence, and see if we can make sense of this picture. Most psychological systems have named a number of characteristics of what it means to be a healthy, fulfilled human being. A sense of meaning, a sense of relaxation and trust, openness, kindness and compassion, the ability to serve and feel good about one's service. So these are all characteristics that are true for transpersonal psychology and its view of what human beings can be, as well as most other approaches. However, what we're learning is that transpersonal psychology comes at this from a different point of view. And that is this view of non-duality, that there is a union, there's a connection that is profound and original at the source, the connection between each individual particle and the totality of the field. So we'll see as we go into this. But this is rich material, it's deep material, it's subtle material. So I want you to bring your questions into the discussions. Don't take things for granted. If there's a word or a concept that isn't fully meaningful to you, bring it into the discussion. Let's see if we can work with it. I want us to sharpen our conceptual tools this week, to ask the discriminating questions, to do the critical thinking, and at the same time, to engage in contemplative thinking, a contemplative orientation to these. So while on the one hand we want to be asking the good, hard, sharp, critical questions about the concepts core to transpersonal psychology, we also want to be exploring this material in our own experience. What do these concepts mean to you in your everyday life, in your ordinary interactions with other people and with the world? So to this end, I'm suggesting another contemplative practice that you could work into your interactions with the class. If you have a regular practice of meditation or prayer or some other way that you connect with yourself in a deep way and with the world. Maybe it's running, maybe it's gardening. I want to encourage those practices and to bring some of these questions in. As you're doing your practice, just let this question of non-duality or ego transcendence rumble around in the background, sometimes in the foreground. So while we're sharpening our conceptual tools, I also want to encourage the dance, the dynamism, and the dialectic of the personal along with the conceptual and the academic. So I think we're in a good place to do all this work, and I'm looking forward to our discussions this week. See you online.